All right, we are back again in the studio. This is Channel 196 on Star Times. This is Cool TV. And we have been on our Independence special on Crossfire. Today, Nigeria marks, our 55th, birthday. This started since 1960 when we got independent. And then at the same time, we have a country in our hand that we don't even know. I think Nigeria ran away from us. Now we are beginning to chase the country. Now, we talked in the first session, we were talking about leaders and the very speech of the president early this morning, addressing the nation, and we looked at a couple of issues that were raised in that particular speech, independence speech of President Muhammad Buhari. But at this section, we will definitely be talking about something totally different, and we'll be looking at the Nigerian economy and virtually all the sector of the Nigerian economy and corruption. And I have this gentleman in the studio with me. Okay, maybe some of you still think that you probably will see Prof. and Mr. Duke Oputa. But we have these three gentlemen join me in this section. I will be talking about economy and corruption in Nigeria. It will be very glad to introduce Comrade Ayodele Adewale, all the way from Amuwo Odofin, local constituency. Comrade, you're welcome to Independence Special. Good to have you on the show. Now, I have another gentleman in the studio, and we definitely will be running the show with, he's a social and human commentator. He's Ahmed Magam. Ahmed, good morning. How are you?
Very fine.
Good to have you on the Independence Special.
Thanks for having me.
And then we have, one of our big brothers. And anytime when we really want to talk about the Nigerian economy and how far we have gone and what we have done well, what we have not done well, where we got it wrong, we always bring him to help come and, educate and enlighten Nigerians. Let's welcome Mr. Gatima Liman on the Independence Special on Crossfire. Good morning, sir. Nice having you on the show. Now, gentlemen, let's quickly look at our country. Nigeria is 55 today. And do you think we have any reason to celebrate? Do you think we have any reason to celebrate? Comrade.
Well, I would say that we can celebrate our nationhood. We can celebrate the fact that Nigeria is still together. And we can celebrate the fact that for the second time after June 12, the Nigerians came out to vote for a man of their choice, and they stood behind their votes and made sure that their vote did count. They were not intimidated by anybody, and even with the fact that the intimidations were there, they refused to budge. And for the fact that we're doing things right. But again, it's so saddened that some of us are not with us yet. Those are the Chibok girls and so many people that have been kidnapped in this country. People have been abused, and more importantly, our economy situation that is not fully primed and fully developed to the extent that every Nigerian can be proud to say that I am a Nigerian. I watched, was it CNN, some couple of days ago. Some migrants were being rescued from the sea, and lots of them were Nigerians. And I looked at it that this is very appalling. It's not as if the country is ravaged by war, and the distance between Nigeria and Libya is so far apart. But people still, decide to go through all of those rigor and danger zone in order for them to get to greener pasture, quote and unquote, and all of that. So that calls for concern. But like I said, we have done what is right by voting a government that is our own, and we should all stand by it and make it work. And our leaders, of course, right now are more accountable. But again, we had the reversal. We had the reversal at the CCT recently, where a leader is running from pillar to post, you understand, not to account for things that have been alleged by him. And that kind of thing is not showing good leadership, and it's not showing good credence, particularly to younger generations that are looking up to such leaders. Look at the Senate president. He's not giving a good direction.
All right, thank you very much, Comrade. Now, Ahmed, do we have any reason to celebrate?
Yeah, we have lots of reasons to celebrate, even though our journey so far hasn't been a smooth ride. And, but then, from the way we've been going, let me give an example with a carpenter. If you want to have smooth table, you need to bring sandpaper on the table. You need to scratch it off and remove all the bad edges, the rough edges, till you have a smooth surface. Now, that is what we are going through in Nigeria. Remember, we are dealing with over 250 ethnic groups in Nigeria. Then it's unfortunate that for most of our checkered democratic system, we've been having people that actually haven't seen themselves as Nigerians yet, but see themselves from the prism of their various ethnic and religious groups. But then, as we are moving forward, I think Nigeria have every reason to now celebrate that, despite that, right now in the system that we are, the situation where we are, the position where we are, that things that have caused civil war in so many places, like what caused the Arab Spring, what is causing the Syrian crisis, we've had more pressing issues, more worse issues than that. But yet, Nigeria, we are here today standing.
Wow, that's a very good. That's a very interesting angle to look at it. Gatima.
Well, if I take our mind back to the knock culture, a lot of Nigerians fail to realize that we've been in existence close to about 5,000 years back before even the coming of Jesus Christ.
That's right.
So it's not surprising that in spite of whatever extraneous, challenges that had been forced on the country, 2015 Nigeria was not to be, and Nigeria still remains very resilient and strong. But, that can be celebrated. But having said that, it's a huge disappointment given the kind of resource endowments that were spewed out by His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari early in the morning. He said, look, you have about 180 million people thereabout. You have the river system, Benue, you have the coastal maritime nation, you also have the oil and gas and all that. But what's actually lacking? It's the human element, and which is precisely the key. Nations that have moved, Finland, some of these other countries that don't even have the resource endowments that we're talking about, build their nations based on what they have in the heart and what they have in the mind. Nigerians are very good in the mind, very intelligent people and all that, but until we cleanse the heart and begin to love each other, and like Ahmed has rightly said, and my other colleague has rightly said, begin to look at the human element away from the prism of ethnicity and the prism of some of these petty mundane issues, and begin to look at the critical elements that call for nation building. I think we may miss the point. That's right. And I'm happy at this particular point that for the first time, or second time, the other time we never had it, June 12th, for the first time Nigerians have said no, and you see a sane president who says, look, for me to move this nation forward, I need to block these leakages, because these leakages in terms of corruption had been the bane of the development process and all that. In spite of whatever amount of funds that had come into the national coffer, the leakages had made it extremely very difficult for us to put in where we can begin to see dividends of democracy and things like that.
All right. So, obviously, we've established the fact that, whether, whichever way we choose to look at it, we have a right to celebrating Nigerians' 55th birthday in some way. Now, let's quickly focus on what we really want to discuss. I have a couple of concerns, and when I started at the beginning of the show, I was talking about the plethora, and myriad of challenges that Nigeria is bedeviled with, at the moment. We've come a long way since 1960. Now, long before now, especially in the 60s or shortly before we got independent, Nigeria was a net exporter of food and, agricultural produce, fantastic, agricultural process, the type that makes Nigeria one of the biggest exporting nation in the world. But today, now Nigeria, imports about $3 billion worth of the same set of product that we're making available to developing countries back in the States. Singapore, China, these are people who've had opportunities to come and benefit from our seeds, and they've taken, our style, our culture, the things that we do that makes us proud, and measure up to so many other great countries in the world. But today, I remember not long ago when Nigeria was categorized. I mean, when China, Singapore were categorized as third world countries. But today, the economy in Singapore and in China are competing really favorably with the best that you want to mention in the world, and there are forces to be reckoned with. But believe you me, where is Nigeria in this picture? Talk about economy. Where is Nigeria in this picture, Galton?
Well, I think the future is quite bright. It's about a vision. I had the privilege of driving, towards the port Apapa about a week ago. And I keep on, saying that our leaders need to have a very, very big focus when it comes to development paradigm shift. Now, we keep on saying, for instance, road construction. We keep on saying the Ibadan Expressway, as if that's the major thing. I am thinking about a situation where our leaders begin to focus on expressway, 6-lane, from Lagos to Maiduguri, because we can do it. Another 6-lane from Maiduguri down to Lagos, and another 6-lane from Lagos, Port Harcourt, and all these other things. We need to have this huge mindset, because this economy is an economy. I keep on giving an example of people, you're inviting people for a wedding ceremony, and it's a big compound, maybe it's a palace or somewhere. And then you just have a small plate and you just say, okay, here's some sandwich and all that kind of thing. That's the way we're approaching Nigeria. Nigeria is a huge economy. You have about 150 million people with all these other Western Central Africans, sub-region, finding lodgement in the markets here. Unless we have a capacity to say, yes, how are we going to approach this development issue? It's not about 10 kobo, 15 kobo, or 10 million US dollars or 10 billion US dollar economy. The study that Obasanjo did during his National Economic Empowerment Development Strategy told him, professors did a lot of strategy work and found out, look, even national capital inflow in terms of foreign exchange, you need at least on the minimum something close to about 100 billion US dollars for a sustainable future, about 10, 15 years for this economy to reflate. And so unless we begin to think in terms of that kind of magnitude, the cosmetic approach, the petty approaches that we have right now, who is the Senate leader, what is he doing and what is he not doing, it's not going to carry us anywhere. What we want to see at this particular stage is a situation where the Senate leadership, for instance, the House of Rep leadership, the judiciary, the presidency, so for the first time, we have a president that everybody, feels can do a change, including the international community. Let's all have some kind of an economic emergency parameter, in place for the next 3 years, so that we can say, hey, we can take on the road infrastructure, for instance. We can take on the energy infrastructure in a very humongous manner, in a very robust manner. And until we have that kind of a mindset, we're not going to move anywhere forward. Because as I said earlier on, the economy is huge, and we have a lot of factory endowments that must be turned into competitive endowments in terms of the human capacity. Nigerians are very agile people, very enterprising people. What is holding them on ground are basically simple, mundane things like the road infrastructure that you can actually deal with once and for all.
All right.
With a serious commitment, you can do that.
Ahmed.
Yes. I'm very happy that we are even discussing this issue. You need to look at it from this angle. Nigerians actually don't understand Nigeria. We don't appreciate what we have in this country. This is a country that is highly blessed. I don't think there's any country in Africa that is as endowed and blessed like Nigeria. Number one, we are blessed with a human capacity, human resource. We are blessed with solid minerals. And recently, we are hearing Mr. President talking about diversifying Nigeria's economy away from oil and gas. Now, if we remember very well, agriculture used to be Nigeria's mainstay before oil and gas was discovered. Then what happened? We've never had any natural disaster per se in Nigeria like we've witnessed in Far East and
even the flooding that we're experiencing. They're human.
They're all human. So our own disaster have been us. That we actually, just like my Oga said here, we dwell so much on mundane things instead of us looking at the things that should make us greater. For example, when you go to China, yesterday I watched on TV whereby Rochas Okorocha led people from Imo State, from Abia State to Turkey. And you look at other Nigerians again in all kinds of chambers of commerce and industry in different countries. What have been the side of our businesses? It has been one side. Nigerians going to the other country to buy and bring to Nigeria, but not us doing. Now, if you remember very well, Nigeria discovered oil at Oloibiri, 1966. 1956, sorry.
Yep.
The United Arab Emirates discovered oil in 1966, 10 years difference. Today, the United Arab Emirates, the father of the sheikh, was saying that way back, his father envisaged a country that will not be relying on oil, but on commerce and tourism. Today, we have what Dubai is. Dubai has become...
The master plan is evolved.
It has evolved over time. Now, we're looking at Nigeria, whereby people actually don't see that, oh, here I am. I am an Igbo person. I can definitely look at what is available in Sokoto and go and pick something or try to develop something because this is my country. For example, myself, I'm from Gombe State. I have a friend that lives in the UK. He is an Igbo man. He said, Guy, what do you have in your state that I can work on? I said, first and foremost, I know you love agriculture, even though we are both IT professionals. Then he said, okay, let me go to your state. I told him land is cheap. He said, oh, fine. And my Igbo friend, Mr. Tony Ifekandu, went straight to Gombe State, even without my knowledge, but because I've given him information. And he bought hectares of land. And this guy has a massive corn plantation. And he's been exporting this thing straight to the UK and making lots of money. And I told somebody, I said, do you understand what is actually going on? This man is reaping the fruits of Nigeria's diversity and our unity. And that is what every Nigerian should be looking at. Now, he made mention, what should government be doing? Government actually shouldn't be even going down, but provide infrastructure. If you remember in the past, we used to have railway lines from Maiduguri straight to Lagos. And they were bringing what? They were bringing produce straight to the seaport for export.
Fantastic.
Now we don't look into we are not looking even into that. What you do now, what we see now is the moment somebody is doing, that's when they remember that you are from Akwa Ibom. And somebody will say, this one is a TV man, this one is a Tangale man, this one is a Fulani man, this one is a Yoruba man.
All right, thank you very much, Ahmed. Comrade, let's take your thought.
Well, what I see to this is capacity. Is capacity. I come from a school of thought that you cannot give what you don't have. But how fair has successive generation impacted on this present one? And how far have they planned for the future of this country? Because the future of the country is in the hands of the citizens. And that is it. And that's just the bottom line. People still see, for instance, agriculture. They still see it from that
subsistence level,
from that primitive perspective that you go to the farm with a hoe and a basket and all of that. You understand? Agriculture has been more packaged. It has been more packaged to the extent that it's more fanciful, it's more lucrative, regardless of the fact that you have trained to be a blue-collar job person and all of that, because you must also understand that there is refining in agriculture. It's part of it. It's beyond just planting. Even before you plant, the seedlings, an act of science where you want to improve on those seeds and all of those things. But agriculture alone will not take Nigeria there. We must also invest in technology. But
Agriculture has taken us there before.
I said alone. It didn't really take us that much there. If it did, we won't have the crisis in the north. We won't have that crisis. Even in the west here, we won't have the crisis. How many of those people were there that educated then?
But other farm produce and agricultural produce, let me put it that way, from the north.
The pace of development as at then was even stunt. It was not rapid. Forget the media blowout. It was not that rapid. You talk about the Granite Pyramid. How many pyramids were there? We could have had thousands of pyramids. Maybe we're counting tens of pyramids. So you need to do more research to the past. There were countries that got independence at the same time Nigeria did. within the pace of 6 years, before the Civil War, they had gone farther than Nigeria. If I want to write your history, and I like you, I can pap your history to the extent that people will fall in love with you. But those people that were living as at then when you lived will actually see that, no, this history was not put in the right perspective. Things have been taken off of it. That's why I said agriculture alone, just as oil alone, due to mismanagement, cannot take us there. Like he said, a generation then saw that oil alone cannot take the Arab Emirates there. They needed to open up, not just diversified, open up to other contemporary developmental issues that can actually move them that high. Because we know quite well that everybody might not be interested in agric. Some might be in technology, some might be in education, some might be in art. He talked about in all culture. There are people that have gone to Syria to look at those artifacts that are being destroyed by ISIL now. And that was fetching them money. People go to Egypt to look at the artifacts that are there, the pyramids. You understand? The mummies and all of these things. So we need to look very, very well. And that is why I still believe in regional government. Regardless of what people say, people must be able to develop according to their peculiarities. The North can develop according to its peculiarity and even develop more than the South. So all of these integral be put together and form Nigeria. And we all depend on our strength as a collective.
Anyway, I really don't know if that will make Nigeria to remain as a federation, as it were, and we would not have to begin to exalt one region above the other. If we are still going to do
exaltation, no.
Yeah, no, but that's eventually it's going to create a form of competition. It has done it before.
Competition is good.
Yeah, competition is
only everybody healthy. Move.
Yes, it's only healthy when it is channeled.
With the greatest of respect, do you know that the South people have this thinking that the whole of Nigeria is relying on them?
Yeah, but is that a lie? At the moment, now that oil and gas is the mainstay of the Nigerian economy, and it is found in their state or in their locality or in their region, I mean, don't they have a right to feel that way?
No, they're actually right to feel that way. When you look at Nigeria, most times there's this erroneous belief that all northern Nigeria is the same. Like you want to say, okay, let's go into regionalism. Then the whole of Southwest Yoruba, the whole of Southeast Igbo, then a kind of diversity in the South. But then the North is not a monolithic entity. We are talking of over 150 different ethnic groups in northern Nigeria. Then when you look at groundnut pyramids then in Kano, you are just talking of an aspect of the northern economy. There was cotton.
There was cola nut.
There was cola nut. There was
rubber.
There was rubber. So each of these places had massive economy going on. Like I told you before, from the northeast, we had cotton, right? Olam that used to be, olam, sugar, and what have you. All of them coming from the northeast. Now, if we say, let's do it, right, focusing on regionalism, why don't we do it even with the states right now? Each state in Nigeria, there is no state in Nigeria today that is not endowed. That is not blessed.
Not blessed with one thing or the
other. And in solid mineral resources, Kogi State happens to be the state with the highest number of solid minerals. I was privy to an information at the Ministry of Solid Minerals in Abuja, and when I looked at it, I was like, wow, in this Nigeria.
Okay, let's move forward a little bit. Now, still on Nigeria economy. Still on Nigeria economy. The government of the day is doing everything on the mantra of change to reposition Nigeria. We've talked about economic diversification. We've talked, the comrade mentioned opening up the Nigerian economy, and now putting all these philosophies together and looking at the advantage or the pluses that is going to bring to the Nigerian economy when every Nigerian is empowered economically to be able to live well in a nation that is richly endowed and blessed with all manner of resources, as Elias said. What do we think that the Nigerian government, the current government in Nigeria, should focus on in terms of re-energizing the Nigerian economy?
See, most investors that are asked about this particular question, the key answer that they would have wished provided for them would be the infrastructure. Basic. you know, a lot of investors are very shy. They have options worldwide as to where to invest their funds. And when you now cannot move a container from the port city of Lagos to Ibadan in less than, let's say, 30 minutes. I was in Rotterdam, privileged to do research, and I saw on a blackboard there, in the office of the managing director of one of the terminal operators here. They also have terminals there in Amsterdam. And it was 35, then down to 24. So I was asking him, what is 35 down to 24? He said it takes him 35 minutes to clear a container from the port. You know, so he wants to bring it down to 25 minutes. In Nigeria, we're talking about 3 weeks or something like that for you to get your container in and out.
1 month.
But basically, going back to your question about economic development, this is the province of experts. Yeah, that's one thing we must distinguish from what the politicians do. Politicians win elections, no doubt. Buhari comes as the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He's a military man. What he ought to have is eggheads. And these eggheads are there in the country, not necessarily political ministers and all that. We need to have a crop of experts that know this country very well at the theory level, at the level of practice. And also look at the country vis-a-vis what it has in terms of its own strategy. Where is the strategic strengths of this nation? And it keeps on shifting. It's a variable that is iterative. Today you may have the security challenge as a major threat. So you must have to focus on the Northeast, for instance.
Because for a very long time before the advent of Boko Haram,
exactly,
and it used to be
the
energy.
Niger Delta. It used to be the Niger.
It used to be strictly energy problem. That was
exactly.
Power was the problem in Nigeria.
So you need to have experts, and you have them all over. In USA, you have the think tank. Sometimes they call them the Chicago Boys, or the Brookings Institute, or the Chatham House. Sometimes they don't see. Nigeria is a competing nation, it's a trading nation. They can bring in a president to come back and say his own strategy. And out there, you know, we say what we want to do, and then the markets begin to pick the numbers and all that. So we need to have a think tank, absolutely key in the country. And that think tank must be think that has intelligence information. A lot of people talk about Boko Haram and this. Nobody has cared to know what are the intelligence elements telling them in terms of where the numbers are, what are the reason for them to take in arms and all that kind of. Because unless you've been able to have the intelligence behind that and funding the intelligence community, which is what advanced countries like the USA have done. You know, the CIA, they go to other countries, not necessarily for military intervention, but even for economic purposes and all that kind of thing. So we need to have, I have repeatedly said that it's absolutely important that you have, first of all, the brain. The country needs to recognize its own brain as to how it can address the power sector, for instance, how it can address its own strategic threats, the strategic weaknesses, where are the strengths of the nation, and even the oil and gas that you're saying, dependent on oil and gas. No Nigerian has done a study to know that 95% of even that commodity is not in the control of Nigerians in the first place. And 95% of that trade is not even in the control of the Niger Deltas or any other. 95% of that trade is in the hands of foreign interests, exactly. And even that, what are the value additions? Have you done forward integration? Have you done backward integration? Even have you even optimized your oil and gas process? You have not. For instance, you are talking about 45 US dollar per barrel. If you had done a real optimization process, you would be beginning to earn as a refining country, a country that refines the product. You know, you'd be earning something close to about 1,500 US dollars from an equivalent of what you're getting in 45 US dollar a barrel. And right now what you're doing, you're sending that process to other countries to import it. So it's lack of strategic thinking that has brought us continuously to remain
to
in
an
the stage
economic
where
mess.
Exactly.
All right, I don't want you to really emphasize that in trying to bring up our closing argument. What is the Nigeria of your future? How would you describe the Nigeria you are looking at, let's say by the end of 2019, the Nigeria of the future? How do you see it?
What I'm looking at, I saw, let me give a little example of what I saw. I saw the Chinese revolution, economic revolution, where they have this 5-year plan, where they plan how to make China move from stage to stage each year. And I was glad when I saw during President Obasanjo's time, they came up with the Vision 2020. And when you read that document, you will know that yes, Nigeria we
Can
have
actually
we
be
have
great again.
this thing if we follow it. But then, for it to work, it has to be a political will. And from what I'm seeing, the president wants to go upon that. I was glad in 2012 in Abuja. I was at Professor Emeritus Umaru Shehu, this fair professor of Maiduguri, yes, from Maiduguri. And I asked President Buhari then, he wasn't even a president, and I was able to block him along the way. And I said, sir, we need you to come and set things right.
Okay.
And he looked at me and he smiled.
All right, we have just a little time. What's the Nigeria of your dream?
Well, for us to achieve that viewpoint, some certain things need to be readdressed. And one of these is the constitution of this country. The Nigerian constitution needs to be reworked. With the way it is now, it's going to affect our development. And with the way it is now, for the president to also fight corruption, it's going to create a lot of hurdles for him.
He's already create
a lot of hurdles for him. So we need to have a sovereign national conference.
Another sovereign national conference.
We have never had. We have never
Another sovereign national
It's not
conference.
another. We have never had one.
Okay.
The closest we had was the Pronaco Sovereign People's Conference.
Okay.
You understand? That was the closest we had.
Okay.
And until we do that and have a constitution that can bind this country together, either for development, for cultural unity, economic prosperity, social inclination, and security.
All right.
We must have a document that would
That can guide us into-
define the roles of all of these things.
All right.
Take, for example, a state is very lucrative, making a lot, take it to the center, and somebody squanders it.
Okay.
Local government can be empowered on their own.
All right.
Individuals that even own the land where many of these derivatives of mineral resource is being found should also have ownership to
That's
it.
true.
And everybody put it together and you have a
All
super
right.
nation.
No time is enough to really discuss about our great country, Nigeria. But on the Independence Special, this is just how far we're going to go today. Tomorrow, we'll be coming back to bring you another very interesting independence package, and we'll continue from where we stop. Thank you for being a part of our show today, and thank you, gentlemen, for coming to our studio. And God bless Nigeria, and God bless Nigerians.
So, did you like what you just saw? I know you did. It's very simple. If you want to see more, just subscribe to our channel right now.